their own KPIs. Everything that is deemed a learning metric is not a learning metric. It's really critical to understand this, that so much of what we do isn't actually learning, because we cannot control the internal process. And this is why we need to, the most critical part of this is understanding the problem before we get to the solution. And then the closer we can put the solution to the problem, the less we need to rely on learning, and therefore we've got a greater chance of actually affecting the way the work is done. So I think that the most important part of all of this is that there is an actual critical point of failure. There is something that the people who are responsible for the work already care about. Nick Shackleton-Jones talks about this. He says that he calls this concern, that people need to be concerned in order to engage and then learn. If they're not concerned, then the what's in it for me isn't present. And one of the hardest things to do in learning and development is make people care. But the easiest way to do learning and development is help them with something they care about. So I'll give you an example. There are so many middle management courses or leadership development courses. People turn up and they don't know why they're there. And then they attend for 3 or 5 days, and none of it relates to their job. Absolutely none of it relates to their job, and nothing changes as a result. But the facilitator tells them, oh, you should care about this. Oh, if this happens, you should care about this. Because it's all based on assumptions or guesses, really, that this is what those people need. And this is because a lot of stuff comes top down. There's no analysis of the job. There's no analysis of what people care about. There's no analysis of what actually keeps those leaders up at night. There are just broad themes that should be interesting, and we hope some of it sticks. It's a nonsense, It's an absolute nonsense. If we want to develop a group of people, then we need to find out what they care about. So rather than starting with the cohort, this is why it's important that you start with a critical point of failure. And it doesn't have to always be within the business. We could start with a lot of the stuff that learning and development are responsible for. Induction, for starters, onboarding and induction. But before we get into it, we've got to be clear about what problem it's solving. And a good way of doing that would be finding out whether why you do induction in the first place, and you have to burst through consistency, because consistency is a nonsense as well. We want to make sure that the investment that we make in people is not wasted. So ways that we do that: we don't want expensive hires to leave. We probably don't want any hires to leave, because we'd see that as a failure. People not passing their probation would be another reason that we want to do induction. There's a compliance element as well, that we want people to have completed compliance training so that they are safe and the organisation is safe. There might be something about readiness to perform. There could be something about engagement, but all of those things. So you start with, why on earth would we do this? Why would we spend our time and money taking people away or keeping them before giving them to their line manager? What would be ultimate success? But you have to define that first. You can't do something and then ask the question, was it useful? You have to, at the outset, understand the hard reasons why. And I think that making sure that hires are still there 1 year later and they're engaged, I think are good reasons why. And that's protecting the investment of the organisation. So if you understand where your organisation is right now, in terms of retention of people, people not leaving within the first year, especially within critical roles. So if you've got, say, a customer success role, but there's 40% churn, so 40% of people leave within the first 12 months, that's a problem. So what you need to do is you need to find out from, so that's your data. That's your hard data to say there's a problem. The next thing, you need the evidence. You need to go to the people who have been hired within the last 12 months and find out, why do you think people are leaving? Are you happy where you are? Do you see yourself staying here? So you need to understand what it is that is causing that churn. And then what you need to do is work with them and say, If we did one thing, what would that be? And it could be about managers, it could be about role design, but we're armed with that data to say 40% of customer success people are leaving. That's costing our organization, with a workforce of say 1,500 customer success people, that's costing us £2.8 million a year. Now, we believe that a reasonable amount of churn for these roles is 15%. So we would be able to save, you know, I'm not going to do the maths live here, but you know, there's a significant reason why you would get involved. And so you would work with stakeholders, the employees themselves and line managers to get that number down. And then you have been successful as a team if you have got that down. Another one could be first line managers. Most learning and development departments are responsible for first line managers because it's a career change. If someone's promoted within your organization, then it's a career change. And then they're not just a risk within their new role, but there is a risk that the people who report into them could be dissatisfied by having a very junior first line manager. So you need to count what that risk is. What's the risk of hiring someone from within without any management experience? Again, you could lose good people who report into them. You could lose your first line manager. There's a good reason why you promoted them. They were a top performer. You don't want to lose them either. There's a productivity issue as well. And if you drill down into particular areas of your organization, say within sales, you could be losing good salespeople because you're promoted first line managers. So you need to go dig in and say, so were we to try something on first line managers, where is there already a problem? Where is there already concern that we're promoting from within and those people aren't prepared to manage and maximize the investment in them and that team? And so we've got a risk. And so you work on that problem. And again, it's really different from just having people attend a first line manager program somewhere within their first year in order to help prepare them. Again, it's a nonsense. If you really cared, you'd understand the problem, you'd work with them to solve that problem, and then you probably make that continuous so that they always felt guided and supported. Create cohorts around that so that they had support groups, introduce more experienced and seasoned managers who have already walked the path that they were already walking. So again, you had another level of insurance, but you were fixing a real problem in the first place, so you could see the before state and the after state. And again, you know that your efforts are focused on solving real problems and getting real results, because the alternative, is one of the biggest wastes of money in the entire profession, which is investing in the latest management fad because the last one didn't work and now everybody needs to go through training again. And even though you've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions, on a new management development program, at the end of it, you still won't know whether it worked or not. And the reason is it solved no real problems. It was a delivery exercise rather than an improvement or a development exercise.